You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
The following is a live broadcast of a Lone Star Community Radio program, recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and facebook.com/irlonestar. For more information on this show, please visit our show page at irlonestar.com/shows. To sponsor or donate to this program, visit our donate page at irlonestar.com/donate, or email us at lscrstudios@gmail.com, or give us a call at 936-666-1084. Lone Star Community Radio production and broadcast is possible by folks like you. So sponsor and donate today.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Rustler, County Extension Agent, Family Community Health, and I almost said my wrong title in a couple of weeks I'm supposed to go to a conference. Hopefully it'll happen in person. We don't know, but so the organization is still called Family and Consumer Sciences, but titles Family and Community Health, and we like words in Extension. We use a lot of them, and I'm saying this because the two people that are with me here today are Extension employees. So here on the Extension Hour, we talk about people, programs, partnerships, and we've got people here today, and we're going to talk about programs, and we'll talk about partnerships too. So we've got Joe Picken. Hey, Joe.
Hi there.
Joe is our 4-H program assistant. Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I basically do a lot of work in schools. If you see me around and recognize my face, it's probably because I've been involved in some way in your child's school, or further back, maybe your child's church days, or on the playing field of some sort. I have been around kids and youth for a very long time, and I've come to Nest here at Extension doing curriculum enrichment for the 4-H.
Yeah. And you know what, when you came to work for us, I kept thinking, you look so familiar. And then for some reason, at some point, I was thinking about something else I was working on, getting ready for our Families Reading Everyday project. And I was like, oh, yeah, we worked on Fred at
CC Hardy.
Yes, with the Willis ISD. And so you were you PTO
at the time,
chairman
I was
at the
PTO,
time?
yes.
So, yeah, so you were one of the awesome, just being a volunteer and making sure that children had what they needed. And now Justin is interviewed you, brought you on board here at Extension, and we're just really glad to have you. So being an employee, is that even better than being a volunteer?
We
hope
so. At least it's for the family bottom line anyways. It's definitely better to be getting paid for doing those sorts of things as opposed to just doing it out of the goodness of your heart.
Because you are one of those people, I think, that would be doing those kinds of things.
I have.
Anyway, yes.
Yes.
So we're really glad to have you with us. And then we've got Justin Saenz, who is our County Extension Agent, Urban Youth Development, which is also part of the 4-H program. So it's one of those unique titles.
One of the few,
yeah,
here in Texas. We're a little bit different here in Montgomery County in the fact that we have 2 agents dedicated to 4-H. We have Michelle Mahalik, our 4-H and Youth Development Agent, and then myself, who is an Urban Youth Agent, and we deal more with the non-traditional projects and also curriculum enrichment with the schools.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of Michelle Mahalik, she is at Texas County Ag Agents Association meeting, and she's getting a Distinguished Service Award.
She is.
Like maybe as we speak, I don't know, but sometime this week. So yeah, she's been with Extension for 20
plus years
or something. Yeah. So yeah, does a really great job here. So she works with the traditional 4-H program. You guys kind of work with what we consider non-traditional, but it all depends on, I think, where your focus is. So people who have experience with Extension are usually familiar with what they've experienced. So if curriculum enrichment is the only exposure that you've had with 4-H, then you may think that that's what 4-H is about. Although some folks show animals, and that's the only thing that they're really familiar with. But yeah, there's so much more to 4-H. And I'm thinking of, this is in the middle of our world pandemic that we're having, and we know that education is going to look different, and even the kinds of things that we're doing is looking a little different. But one of the awesome things I think about 4-H is the flexibility. And there's project areas, there's curricula that we have available, but it really can be focused for what you need to kind of meet your own needs. So it helps families and youth identify goals that they have, and then gives them kind of a path to reach that. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. In 4-H, we have a standard set of projects, but also families and kids can kind of come up with their own project. A project consists of goals. We want kids to be able to have a goal that they're going to set each year, and at least have 6 learning experiences from that project, whether it be to learn more about it or to improve and grow within the project.
Yeah, and we've even had some 4-H members that kind of come up with their own project, sort of an independent study project. But there's a lot of stuff within 4-H that's already there's a lot of stuff already kind of laid out there to do. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about curriculum enrichment, because that's where you focus mostly, Joe. So what does that mean, curriculum enrichment? It sounds fancy.
It does. We're in the world today of, for better or worse, we've kind of arrived at this place where teachers have a definitive roadmap, and they almost cannot bring something into their classroom if, because of the testing in public schools, they cannot bring anything into their classroom that doesn't in some way help kids be more successful when it comes to testing time. So we're not necessarily bringing something in that's here. It's completely curriculum. We want you to just teach this thing that otherwise you might not teach at all. It's more of a case of, you need to teach this. Let's give you a way to teach it that might be more exciting, more hands-on, that connects kids to something that hopefully in the long run makes them better people and better citizens for our world.
All right. So the 4-H motto is learn by doing, and that's definitely what curriculum
Absolutely.
enrichment does. I mean, like all of 4-H does it, but curriculum enrichment in particular. And it kind of brings 4-H into the classroom. So I've heard people talk about years and years ago that like 4-H was just part of schools. And even, so I know that there's some really small counties that still have, like, everybody in school is in 4-H. It's just part of the school. So it is the curriculum, not necessarily curriculum enrichment. But curriculum enrichment is bringing some additional things. And like you said, it's helpful because so it is what it says. It enriches the curriculum because it adds to the kinds of things that they already have to learn. And pretty much I would say like every curriculum enrichment that program that we have in Extension, it is aligned with the TEKS. So we've had specialists that have gone through and made sure that the teachers can utilize this to teach the things that they need to teach. So TEKS is Extension Knowledge and Skills.
Yes.
TEKS, yeah.
Text is essential. Yeah.
Essential, what did I say?
Extension, I think.
Extension. I say that word a lot. No.
Yep.
So TEKS is Essential Knowledge and Skills, TEKS. So those are the things that help them hopefully do better on the test. So like you said, kind of a innovative way to learn and to teach the kids. So there's several. Let's talk about the ones that we have, and then we'll talk about your favorite. Is your favorite the one we're going to talk about today? Or is it one of your favorites?
It's definitely at least one of my favorites for sure, and I think it's very worthwhile. It's not only a good way to just hit what they've got to hit, but it's a way to connect them to agriculture and, frankly, the natural world as a whole, which is really kind of near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. So, and one of the things I wanted to mention too, like as we talk about this, so we're going to talk about the curriculum enrichment and kind of give us Justin and I will be your students and you can teach us. But I mentioned earlier, like right now, so summertime, school is going to start one way or another. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like. And we do kind of have a way that curriculum enrichment has been delivered traditionally, so we can use that word traditional, but that we're just not, there's what's your favorite, someone said new normal. If I hear new normal one more time, but there's lots of those phrases that we're using now, overabundance of caution, the new normal. So anyway, the new normal, things are going to look a little bit differently. So we're going to talk about curriculum enrichment, but also, I mean, some of those things could probably be adapted to learning at home.
Absolutely.
So whether you're homeschooling specifically or do learning at home, those kinds of things can match up with it. All right, so Joe, tell us a little bit about some of the ones that you like to deliver.
Okay, so some of what I do is actually just straight delivery to teachers. So over the summer, a lot of what I've been actually able to accomplish, because it hasn't needed to change, is, with exception of the number that I can address, is doing teacher workshops. Mm-hmm. So in those sorts of instances, teachers will come and they're, of course, expected through the districts to maintain their level of certification. They have to get a certain number of training hours per year. So they can come and I will actually walk through lessons with them, and they will be participating in science lessons with me and doing those lessons, talking about the background, but also walking through them as opposed to just talking about it and having this idea on paper that, you know, when you go to convert it into actual action in the classroom, they may have questions or not have understood something the way it was delivered. So they're walking through those lessons and able to see it and think through with the other individuals that are there attending that day. How could I make this fit my exact situation? How would I change this for a different grade level? Those sorts of things, and talk about it with them, show them the supplies that it takes, the time that it takes, all that good stuff. So walking those teachers through lessons that they can then take and actually use in their classroom versus being a concept. Some training to sit through that doesn't actually impact their classroom next year. That's the goal of teacher training for me.
And I think an important point to make here, so we've been talking about curriculum enrichment. We have all of these things that are kind of like on the shelf that could be delivered or given to a teacher to teach. But it's not just that, here's a nice little notebook, go teach it, good luck. Or it's not Joe's going to come in and teach it all for you and you don't have to do a thing. It's really preparing the teachers to integrate that into their classrooms and so that you help them become more prepared and confident so that they can deliver it.
Right. I think there's some of all of that involved. There are some things that I will actually go into the classroom and teach directly, but there's definitely also that supporting role where I can make them feel more confident in just handling it themselves and hopefully maybe teaching it in a way that they re-excites them, because some teachers have been teaching something for a long time and just been going with the same thing over and over again, and hopefully these sorts of lessons just give them some new way to kind of really make that connection for their kids, but also to spark an excitement, because if you're excited about teaching something, the kids are much more likely to be excited about learning it, and it becomes a happier process for everybody.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay, so we are going to talk some more about the curriculum. So that's a nice little teaser, right? So that's to help the teachers, and so we mentioned too that it could be for parents as well, but we are going to take a little bit of a break, and we're going to come back and we'll talk more specifically about the curricula, and then we'll also get into some kind of what does a lesson actually look like. But we're going to take a break, and this is Lone Star Radio. You're listening to the Extension Hour, where we talk about our people, our programs, our partnerships, all kinds of things with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, where we try to help Texans make their lives better. And we'll be back right after this.
We have the safest food supply in the world. Strict laws and regulations restrict the usage of hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides within our food supply. Production agriculture practices and technologies such as the use of GMOs, which is not any more or less risky than conventional crop production, has allowed American farmers to produce more food on less acres in environmentally sound ways. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make lives better.
The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour.
Relax with a cup of joe or your favorite drink for the Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chat. The show airs on the first Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio. Join hosts Courtney Galley and Brian Bondi as they chat about the Chamber's events and programs for the month and invite Chamber members into the studio to talk about their upcoming events and businesses. Learn about your Chamber with Chamber Chat every first Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Welcome back. This is the Extension Hour, People, Programs, Partnerships. We're talking with Joe and Justin, and we're talking about curriculum enrichment, which is that part of 4-H that not everybody knows about, but it is a really big part of 4-H. In fact, I think in terms of enrollment numbers, curriculum enrichment far outweighs our traditional clubs. And sometimes kids make that transition from curriculum enrichment into traditional clubs because they go, oh, 4-H is a thing. I can join a club. So before we get back into curriculum enrichment, just in case people are interested in 4-H, Justin, you want to give the kind of the rundown what it is?
So 4-H, it's a youth organization for kids 3rd through 12th grade. Like we were mentioning earlier, you can do anything in 4-H. Most think of 4-H as cows, plows, and sows is what we built our roots on. But we do everything from robotics to photography to fashion and interior design, food and nutrition. We have fun contests where it's like Iron Chef. And then we also do traditional stuff like the Montgomery County Fair with our non-livestock baked goods and handicrafts along with our livestock program. But our 4-H year does run with this school year, so we will start enrollment in August. With August 15th, we'll open up our enrollment. It is going to be $25 if you register, if you enroll before November 1st. And then after that, it'll be $30 for the entire year, and it's just an annual fee. Once you join, you can pick one of our 30 clubs that we have throughout the county. Some of them are going to be general clubs that are made up of kids from all over the community. And some of them are going to be specific clubs like our shooting sports and where they have archery practice. Every couple of weeks we have a vet science club, a horsemanship club where they practice various horse events such as barrels and poles with, when we think of our traditional radios, and we do some of our they actually show horses. They have halter classes for horses as well. So we do have some more specific type of project clubs like our dog project. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone.
And $25 is the registration fee, but that's really very inexpensive compared to some youth opportunities.
Right.
There will and occasionally be an additional fee, like the shooting sports club that he mentioned, just to make sure that they have supplies for the kids, but it's still definitely an inexpensive option compared to going out and outfitting yourself, especially if your child is trying something new and you want to be sure that their interests lie there before you make a sizable investment. So as far as interest goes, I feel like if you're talking to parents and you say, why should your kid join 4-H? Well, you talk to them about developing a leader and all of the ways that 4-H builds kids' characters and helps them prepare for college and maybe even pay for college. When you're talking to kids and you want to get them excited, you say things like, did you know that you get to choose your pathway and you don't have to do it, whatever it is the grown-ups say we're doing this week, but you get to pick what you're interested in and pursue that, as long as, of course, you can get your parents to jump in and, give you a little support. But
Yeah, it is kind of a family affair. I mean, it does take family involvement, except if you're doing curriculum enrichment. So if it's part of what you're doing in the classroom, and as we mentioned before, it could be in the classroom or it could be at home. It could be adaptable to that. And you were telling me a little bit about, so all of the curriculum enrichment, regardless of what it is, there's certain things that kids need as for a foundation from grade to grade, and the curriculum enrichment is specifically designed to reach certain age groups, right? So it's adaptable and flexible, where it can be depending on kind of how you take it, it could be different age groups, but pretty much, I mean, it's very age appropriate. That's what I'm trying to say. So all of the curriculum enrichment is based on the foundation. So you were telling me a little bit in the break about foundations that kids might have missed with this kind of weirdness that we've had.
We would definitely all in a world that we could design ourselves, right? In the perfect world, we would have finished the school year in a normal way, and we would feel assured that the delivery of all of this learning took place as it was expected to. But typically a lot of our curriculum enrichment right now is science geared, and so just to kind of give parents and those of you that are less familiar with the classroom environment a little bit of a snapshot, kids basically start learning in kinder, and they have to build the foundation, and they're not tested as far as our going back to our standardized tests. They're not tested on science until 5th grade. And once they hit 5th grade, and when they're tested, they're expected to possibly, it's fair game for them to go back and test anything all the way through kinder. So when we look back at the end of the year, we basically understand that our traditional learning stopped at spring break, and everything that would have been covered past that point might be slightly more questionable than it would have been in a normal year. Mm-hmm. We kind of need to look at where are the holes potentially. And the scary thing about it is, as I was preparing for today and just trying to make sure, did I have enough to talk about to persuade those that might be like, oh, well, who cares if we missed, from spring break to the end of the school year, it's not that long. We probably wouldn't have been learning that much anyways. I went back and looked at the science test for last year. Mm-hmm. There were 36 questions on the 5th grade STAR test, some of which some of us might struggle to answer at this point. But that's kind of another story. Anyhow, 11 of those 36 questions were based on essentially life science. So the stuff that would have been covered past spring break. So 11 out of 36. So we'd like to think that, unless we were in that period where we're going to be tested, it's not that big of a deal. We'll play catch up. But teachers have a lot on their plate, and it's hard to go back and cover what was missed last year, plus cover all the stuff that's supposed to be covered this year. Mm-hmm. So we want to do the best that we can to prepare students to be building on a level foundation, as opposed to trying to build on something that they should have learned, but oops, it fell through the cracks. Yeah. So that's obviously, as you said, that's going to vary at different grade levels. Kinder students are not learning the same things as 3rd graders, but it is a lot of the same overlapping topic. It's just a matter of adding on additional information to that. So again, if you're looking at TEKS and actually reading through those things, and I know no one wants to do that unless they just need to put themselves to sleep, but if you're reading through the TEKS, it's things like life cycles, and it's things like interdependency, and it's things like they title that section organisms and environments. And essentially what that means is it's life science. So don't feel, as someone who's talking to kids about it, don't feel overwhelmed like, well, I can't possibly talk to a kid about the things that they would have learned in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade science. A lot of it is stuff that and it's maybe just kind of transitioning it into language that then can translate onto a worksheet or a science test. But they do need those foundational aspects, and they need to connect theory with real life, which is my favorite part of science, that you can make it hands-on, and it's something that they can see, and it's something that they can experience in a best case scenario, so that it's not just some knowledge that we read about in a book and then try to put it on a test. It's actually, it is life, explaining life science. It's again, it's at this time of year, it's things like taking out your kids to the park, and as we are continuing to keep ourselves safe, take yourself to the park and go and look for tadpoles in the pond, and talk with your kids about the fact that those aren't fish, that they're going to grow into frogs, and all the steps involved in getting the frog out of that little swimming thing that you see down in front of you.
Yeah. So what's the difference between, let's say, kindergarten and 1st grade? So it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of difference, but kids grow really fast and they learn lots between those times.
They do, for sure. At the end of kinder, they're going to be talking about things like the basic needs. So if it has basic needs, then it can be a living thing, and you don't have to feed the pet rock, right? It doesn't need to breathe. It doesn't grow, those sorts of things. And we're talking about the plant life cycle as well. And then when we go into 1st grade, we're talking about, and it sounds like a big leap, but we go back and we talk about the plant parts. So we're talking about how, a plant is able to go through its life cycle because it can meet its basic needs through having these parts, the roots, the stem, the leaves, all these things. They're not ready to talk about how the plant necessarily accomplishes that, but that it has these parts to get to it. And in 1st grade, which is kind of a jump jump ahead or a preview to what we're going to really focus on, they start hitting the animal life cycles at that grade level, and they give examples of what the animal life cycles are that we should be studying, and the example that they give is the chicken. They also give the frog and the fish. So having studied several years worth of STAR tests, I have yet to actually see a chicken on the test. It's more a case of have this background knowledge and then be able to apply it to something similar or make a comparison from this life cycle to another. So.
Okay. So then from first grade to second grade.
First grade to second grade, then we're jumping into food chains. So it kind of reaches back a little bit to the interdependency thing. It's looking ahead to how the energy flows when we hit third grade. It's animal characteristics, it's plant characteristics, it's things like how does this animal's part help it meet its basic needs. So, for example, a beak on a chicken, how is it necessary for meeting its basic needs as opposed to just being some decorative, part of the animal or the plant. It's understanding things like the plant has the flower so that it can then make seed and we can start that life cycle over again. So it's, like I said, it's basically taking those smaller blocks and building a bigger picture as we go along. And so if we don't have those blocks, it really becomes hard to...
And that's kind of what you were talking about too, to the foundation, and it builds. So it's important. It kind of goes back and forth, but definitely you need those ideas to begin with to go on to the next topic. So second to third grade, is that a big jump?
Yeah, if you were to ask a teacher that, they would say absolutely. Second to third grade science, we go up to structures, and they start using different terminology. At that point, they're going to say maybe adaptations or structures and functions. They start doing life cycles, a combination of things. Instead of just saying plants or animals, now it's plants and animals. It's those kinds of things. As far as what they're asking their students to produce in the classroom, yes, it's definitely a big leap. If you're studying it on paper, it maybe doesn't always look like a huge leap as opposed to, looking at their specific teaks. But what they're asking them to accomplish and put back in an assignment format, then yes, it's definitely a big leap. I would say, as far as science, I would say going into fourth and then definitely going to fifth are definitely bigger leaps as far as looking at what they're learning in science. Yeah. But it's all difficult to accomplish if you don't have a strong foundation. So it's important to make sure that and I do a lot of, don't always hit the testing grades. I do a lot of foundational stuff in first grade, looking ahead just to make sure, one, to help those teachers make sure the foundation is there, and two, just, kids are so excitable at those ages, and their brains are sponges, and they soak so much stuff up, and they get really excited, and they want to continue down a pathway, and really learn and soak it all in, and it helps them to have foundational science with the further caveat of sometimes teachers are so tasked at those early grade levels with learning reading and some of those things that they feel like are pushed at those early grade levels, and science can kind of be almost left out if they don't have a little support like a curriculum enrichment to make it easy and fun and a little bit less work for the teachers. That
makes sense. And then, so I know tests are controversial. Everybody has an opinion on, how and why and when we should and if we should test and that kind of thing. But what you're describing, I think, is an ideal situation. So they're learning along the way, so that you're building up that foundation, and so then it's not so much teaching to the test, but it's teaching them about life and apply it to life. And then when it does come around time to take the test, it's just that's the things we've been learning. It's not necessarily that big of a deal, right?
If we can prep it and put it in front of them that way, then yes, I feel like that would be a much better situation. I feel, and too many times I've seen it be sort of the opposite, where teachers are like, this is going to be on the test, and they're kind of stressing them out a little bit, and we don't want it to be that way. You want them to be learning something that excites them, and just they then feel confident about, and they can easily, put it down on a test and not stress.
Yeah.
Not stress the teachers, not stress the parents, not stress the students. That's the ideal situation, of course.
So that it's not just book knowledge, but it's experiences. And so
Yes.
then when a question comes up, they can go, oh, yeah, that's kind of like when
Yes.
I saw the egg hatch or
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yes.
So, Justin, you've told me before your favorite grade is third or fourth. Which one?
Fourth grade.
You like fourth grade
I do,
best?
yes.
Why do you like them better than third graders? What you got against third graders?
Nothing against third graders. It's that fourth grade, that in between third
Yeah.
and fifth grade. They really, like Joe was saying, they really absorb what you're teaching them, and they really do get excited. So I know when we do some of our agriculture events, it's really easy for them to get excited about it, but it also sticks with them. You can talk a little bit more, go into a little bit more detail on some of those concepts with the fourth graders.
So a lot of our curriculum enrichment and some of the events that we do, like special activities, are kind of focused on third and fourth grade. And then also third grade is the grade that they can officially become an official 4-H member. We do have some stuff for kids before called Clover Kids, but third grade is kind of that grade that they could join a 4-H club and start doing some of the 4-H contests and that kind of thing. But then we're also preparing them in the classroom with the curriculum enrichment, and hopefully all of those things go together so that kids literally are doing, like I said, the 4-H motto is learn by doing. So they're learning while they're doing with hands-on and getting some really good things that are going to last them a lifetime. So not even just for the test, but, they could be 30 years old and be thinking of something new, right, Justin?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so we're going to do another break, and we're going to come back, and we've been talking a lot about the curriculum enrichment and kind of what, the why we do it. So we'll talk a little bit more about what it is right after this. You're listening to the Extension Hour, People, Programs, Partnerships, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, and I better just go to a break because I'm like rolling over my words now. All right, see you in a minute.
Want to check out the fastest growing sport in the world? It's right here in Conroe, Texas, and it's roller derby. Conroe Roller Derby is a nonprofit recreational league of women and men who want you to come and check out the fast-paced, hard-hitting game of roller derby. The Conroe Cutthroats practice at Rainbow Roller Rink on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. You can find our game schedule and more information on our website, www.conroerollerderby.com.
What can the Better Living for Texans program do for you? You can learn how to increase your consumption of fruits and vegetables, choose foods that are relatively inexpensive and good to eat, make your food dollars last longer, prepare quick, nutritious meals, help your children learn how to eat healthier snacks, and much more. Our program is committed to helping people like you improve your health through providing research-based nutrition education in a friendly, cost-free, and relaxed environment. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Remember to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on your computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. Lone Star Community Radio, broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Welcome back. We're having a very enlightening and enriching conversation because we're talking about curriculum enrichment, and then I'm just coming up with all kinds of like words and new names and that kind of thing as I, my mind sometimes goes faster than my mouth, or maybe it's the other way around. I'm not sure. But we're talking with Joe Picken, who is our 4-H program assistant here in Montgomery County. We've got Justin Saenz here, who is our urban youth development agent here in Montgomery County, and we have a great 4-H program. We have over 30 traditional clubs, and then we've got some excellent curriculum enrichment opportunities that are in a variety of schools all over Montgomery County. So we do serve Montgomery County specifically. However, every county in Texas has an extension office or is served by an extension office. All of them are a little different. We're very fortunate here in Montgomery County to have a large staff. We're extremely blessed to have program assistants that help us with the 4-H program, and then we've got one for our family and community health program, so that helps us extend and do even more extension. But, Montgomery County is a big county, and it's growing fast, and so there's probably more to do than even the ones that are here could do. But so Jo is the program assistant. Her job is mostly to work with curriculum enrichment. You kind of get to do, just like all of us, we end up being a little bit of a jack of all trades, where we do some things that we didn't really think were in our job description, but we do them because we're all about helping people. So helping Texans make their lives better, that's basically our mission, and we do that in a variety of ways. But yeah, with curriculum enrichment, that's one of the ones I think reaches so many youth. And so Jo has been in lots of schools here in Montgomery County, offering curriculum enrichment, working with the teachers, preparing the teachers, and then you also mentioned sometimes going in yourself to do programs.
Yes, there's a list of programs that I've already prepared, that I have materials for, that I have gone and implemented in the classroom directly myself. Those are typically a single visit where a teacher would either decide, and commonly it grows from this, but it might be that one teacher's interested, has a particular desire to do something a little more hands-on, a particular topic, and so they may ask me to just come and do a lesson with their students, but that oftentimes morphs into at least them and their teaching partner, and many times it ends up being an entire grade level. So for example, last year I went in and saw the first grade at one particular elementary fairly often, because I had made that connection with a teacher, and she knew that I could interest her students and had hands-on lessons for them. So we did a soil lesson for first grade. So that's
get to play in the dirt.
Yes, they actually did. That was the hands-on kind of payoff at the end. We talked with them about needs versus wants, which is not just a science thing, but it's also a social studies cheek for them. And at the end, what they did was actually looked at 3 different soil types and got their hands in the dirt, and were able to feel that and experience it in a place where no one was screaming at them to stop getting dirty and go wash their hands immediately. So soil is one. Insect mouth parts, reaching back to that discussion we had a second ago of structures and functions. We also have a food chains one, a food web one. So those are kind of, again, that kind of touches on the idea of building. You have to understand the concept of food chains. In other words, feeding one thing, eats this, eats that, eats the next thing, and then you build it into a whole environment in a habitat where there are multiple options for this mosquito could be consuming or be consumed by multiple things. So that's kind of a food chains, kind of a 1st and 2nd grade, maybe 3rd grade, and then food webs are a 4th and 5th grade thing, kind of taking that and growing that idea. And also life cycles. And life cycles is something that can be done in conjunction with which are our big program, which has hatching in the classroom, and sometimes it's done just by itself as a standalone program.
So those are ones, like you said, could just be done in a class, one class, or
Yes.
Couple of classes. Also, the stream trailer, like field and stream, right? So you guys took that to Willis last year.
Yes, that's one of my favorite curriculum enrichments is the stream trailer, because with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, we do have some great resources, and so our district office has a stream trailer, and it's a 4x8 table where we have a water pump at the bottom, and we have grit in this in the table. It's more of a table top tank. And we basically are able to simulate how rivers are formed. And so we use this to talk about weathering, erosion, and deposition. And with the science classes, it's hard for those kids to grasp the knowledge of weathering and erosion from looking and reading on a book. They can't grasp it until we show them at the stream trailer. We have about 20 kids around it. We turn on the pump, and we start with a straight river, and as slowly over time, this is a model, and it happens fairly quick. We can start to see that river because of weathering, where the particles break apart, and then erosion, those particles start to be moved, we see our river starts to meander, it moves, and we start seeing curves. And those kids see firsthand about how rivers get formed and why our rivers kind of curve. They're not straight lines. And so it's really cool to see those kids get excited and actually take what they've learned in the book and see it in person.
Yeah. And then again, relating life to science and life science.
Yep.
So also when we were talking about curriculum enrichment, so there's a lot, you talked about parts of the plant, and that reminded me of, that's actually a lesson in both the Junior Master Gardener program and the Learn, Grow, Eat, Go program, which are kind of partner programs. And we've done some shows before with some of the volunteers that do the Junior Master Gardener programs and the Learn, Grow, Eat, Go. So those are things that are offered as well. But probably the one that you do the most and probably
reaches
favorite,
the most students,
yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
And I spend a great deal of my time doing, in comparison to other things, is hatching in the classroom.
Yeah. Sometimes we call that egg to chick too. So we kind of sometimes use those terms interchangeably, but hatching in the classroom, all about the life cycle of the chicken.
Yes. So as I kind of previewed earlier, it is mentioned in the first grade TEKS. That does not mean it's limited to a first grade classroom. We're very blessed, and we've kind of said this several times, but one of the other blessings of working for Montgomery County is that we have incubators and turners. We have the equipment to make this a little bit of an easier experience for teachers. So we're able to loan this equipment out to them and help them secure eggs so that they can actually do the full 21 days, and then plus however many days they're willing to host chicks in their classroom. But so their students are actually seeing this happen and experiencing it real time, and I'll come in and do a couple of lessons with them myself for sure, just to make sure that all of the full potential of this experience is realized.
So how many classroom lessons are included in the...
They're definitely going to get to, and I try really hard, if my schedule allows, to make sure that it's not just, typically we're going to have 1 to 2 per campus at a time, so 1 to 2 machines per campus at a time, just to make sure that we're not monopolizing, any one campus that got really interested doesn't get to keep someone across the county from having the experience. But I will make sure that at least we offer, if I can accommodate it, that I will include the entire grade level. So let's say that 2 first grade classrooms actually are hatching in their classroom. I will include all of the first grade classes in doing both a life cycle lesson, which will do the chicken, and depending on their grade level, at least an insect and another animal and a plant. And then we'll do a candling lesson as well, and that's one of the most impactful. The teachers get really excited about it. They tend to want to video it so they can share it with someone at home later, and the students are very, they understand that there's something alive inside the egg in theory, and then when we do candling and they're actually seeing something in there that is clearly alive inside the egg developing, it's a really impactful moment for them.
So tell us, like, how does the candling work?
So you have to have, it has to be in a certain window. Well, it doesn't have to be, but if you want it to be, a great experience for them to actually view, you need it to be within a window. So it's 21 days worth of development in the egg. So from the time that you start them to the time that they hatch should be 21 days. There's a little variation in there, but we'll just go with 21 days. You want to candle ideally between days 10 and days 14. So that's where sometimes it can be just a matter of trying to manage my own time and going from one side of the county to the other and still trying to include as many people as possible. But you want to, what you do is remove eggs from the incubator. You have to make a classroom as dark as possible, and then it's called candling because once upon a time, of course, they were using candles.
Like literally a candle.
Correct. And fortunately for, smoke detectors and all those sorts of things now, we're able to use a flashlight. So we will remove them, make the room as dark as possible, make sure all the students are seated and stationary and understand that they're not to move, make sure it's safe. But turn it off, shine a flashlight into the egg, and then point out to them all the things that are hopefully going on in there. Now, it's science. And so you will occasionally, and a part of the reason that's important to candle is there will be some that are not still alive and need to be removed. But you're going to show them the pores in the eggshell. You're going to show them the blood vessels running down the side. You're going to show them, and part of the reason that you shoot for that 10 to 14 day window is the embryos at that point are not so big that you can't see anything else, but they're big enough to have developed some things that are recognizable to you, including their eyes, which are usually some of the easiest things to see. And at day 6, they're capable of voluntary movement. So if you're hitting that 10 to 14 day window and you put your flashlight on something that can't shut its eyelids to the point to block out that kind of light, it's going to actually move around inside the egg, and that's what's so exciting for everyone.
Yeah, so they can actually see the reaction and what's happening.
Yes.
So you mentioned a couple of, so those 2 lessons, but it's a 21-day project. So even if you're not necessarily talking about it every day, when they have those incubators in the classroom, it gives the kids an opportunity to think about it every day, and it's kind of exciting to think, oh, what's happened today? And oh, what's happened today?
And I do provide them additional lessons for them. I mean, it's science teachers in general are going to have access to a lot of material anyways, but I will give them more lessons for them to have access to that they can implement themselves during that 21-day period, just to make sure that they're using it to its full potential. Because if your students are excited, you might as well carry it over to not just science, but you might as well be using it for your ELA lessons, for your language arts, for your math lessons, word problems, all those sorts of things. And so I've really pushed to make this program something that, one, that teachers are not scared to take on, but 2, that they are excited about doing because their students are excited, and it's not something that's intimidating to them.
Yeah. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just going to say it is exciting for those 21 days because it's actually pretty amazing how those eggs, how much transformation happens in 21 days. It goes from a little speck to a full-grown chick in 3 weeks, and day to day they're actually growing quite fast. It is really fascinating for both kids and adults to see that process firsthand.
And you had some projects going on when during spring break, and then after spring break when kids did not get to go back into the classroom. But you helped them go ahead and see them hatching, right?
I did. So that was a kind of we had all the way across the spectrum. So there were some schools that were fortunate enough to have just finished their project when spring break happened, and so for them it was all done and all good. Although I did end up with some of those chicks at my own house because we hadn't made other preparations. I had one campus, bless their hearts, and kindergarten students who had taken this on, and they had reached day 18, and then they shut down schools. So I went and picked those up, and I Facebook Live broadcasted their hatch from my house so that they hopefully could see the fruit of their labor, so to speak. And then we actually had a lot of schools that were signed up to do it after spring break. And so I did a virtual hatch at home and did all the steps and videoed and did experiments and made it accessible to those students through their teachers for actually just learning at home.
Yeah. That's awesome. So we've been talking a lot about this as an opportunity, but we haven't really talked about how do teachers or parents take advantage of this opportunity? What do they have to do?
At this point, it's mostly a matter of contacting us directly. We don't have an online sign up or anything as complicated as that, although as our programs grow and our county continues to grow, it may get to that point. But for right now, it's basically just contacting us. The simplest thing is probably to email us, but you're always welcome to call the extension office. And if you have questions that you don't think would be easy to convey via email. But as far as signing up, at this point, it's mostly just contacting us directly.
So you can call us at the extension office, 936-539-7825. or 7823 or 7822. They all go to the same line. And then there's a menu system. 4-H is first, second,
We're
third.
No, we're 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Extension
can
3.
press 3, and then Joe Picken is the one that you want to talk to when you do that. So, or you can email. So do you mind giving out your email address?
My email address is basically my name spelled out. So it's jo.picken, P as in Paul, ICKEN, and then the extension is at ag.tamu.edu.
Okay, and then Justin, you want to share yours?
It's going to be Justin, JUSTIN.SAENZ at ag.tmu.edu.
Or if you do Facebook, there's a Facebook page. You can reach out on Facebook. We do have a regular website. What was that address?
It's going to be agrilifeorg/Montgomery4H.
Okay. And so that you can also reach out that way as well. So there's lots of ways. And so that, I mean, sometimes just reaching out is half the battle. But we've got excellent help that can serve your needs. Okay, so we have a few minutes left. We're going to take a break and we're going to come back and then you're going to give us like a preview of a lesson. Yeah? Okay, you're listening to the Extension Hour, People, Programs, Partnerships. We'll be back in just a minute.
An estimated 1 in 10 births will result in a neonatal intensive care stay, also known as the NICU. Overnight, a family can find themselves and their newborn baby in a critical situation. The Mila Foundation financially and spiritually assists families in need. If you would like to volunteer or become a monthly sponsor, please visit us at www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org, because every life matters.
Are you interested in learning more about preparing quick, healthy, and safe meals for your family? Would you like to spend time with others learning tips and tricks, along with practicing and tasting nutritious food? If so, the On the Road to Healthy Living Mobile Cooking School is for you. Call Amy Ressler at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service at 936-539-7825 to find a class near you or volunteer to host a class.
Do you want to know what's going on in Conroe? Tune in to Keeping Up with Conroe. Keeping Up with Conroe will highlight upcoming events and local businesses in the area. Keeping Up with Conroe will air the second Tuesday of every month at 11 a.m. and will be hosted by the Conroe CVB staff. Keeping Up with Conroe will highlight Conroe's amazing attractions for residents and visitors. So tune in to Keeping Up with Conroe and join the staff of the Conroe CVB every month on Lone Star Community Radio. For more information about Keeping Up with Conroe and the Conroe CVB, go to visitconroe.com.
Welcome back. This is the Extension Hour. We've been talking with Justin and Joe. Joe's been telling us all about hatching in the classroom, something that's offered for teachers and parents. So it's very adaptable, very flexible. We've mentioned we don't know what it's going to look like this year, but we are here. We're from the government. We're here to help. But we really do have a lot of things, and we're trying to be very adaptable so that we can serve the needs of the people of Montgomery County, because that's really what we do. We're all about helping Texans make their lives better, and one way is teaching them about the life cycle through hatching in the classroom. All right, so we were going to do. You can just imagine that Joe has more visuals and things that she can add to this presentation, but just kind of a presentation for teachers would look like, or in the classroom.
Okay, so when you start talking about chickens and the eggs, and of course you get past the initial joke of which came first, there is a little bit of a stumbling block for some kids that and if you don't address this at some point, then you may have yourself kind of smacked in the face with it at the end. But they're thinking about, they think less quickly of the Chick-fil-A angle than they think of those eggs that are in the refrigerator at home. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I always try to make sure, besides the fact that it's talking to science, is you don't want them to feel guilty about consuming eggs at home. So you make sure that they understand that eggs for sale at the store are unfertilized eggs. So how do you talk to a kindergartner, a first grader, a second grader, even up to a fifth grader about what a fertilized versus an unfertilized egg is? So it is kind of one of those, you don't want to gloss over it, but you don't want to end up prompting more questions that you don't want to deal with later. So
Or just send them home to the parents to deal
right.
with.
So typically what that looks like is basically, and I've actually had a teacher once upon a time who will not name names or point counties or school districts, but who listened to this conversation and then was like, how did I get to this age and not know that? You can have hens all by themselves and raise hens, and this is how it is done commercially without the need or presence of roosters whatsoever, and they're capable of laying eggs all by themselves. So I kind of tell students, basically the hens do all the work and the roosters make a little bit of an appearance if they're called for, and then basically they just go back to being lazy again after that. So those eggs that are sold at the store, unfertilized eggs, which means the hen did the full work all by herself. She has all the things that she needs, all the parts and pieces inside her body. She forms the shell around an unfertilized egg because there's no second piece of the puzzle. And depending upon your grade level, what terminology you would use for that. So if it's a fertilized egg, those ones that we're going to be hatching in the classroom, then of course we have to keep our hens and roosters together. And then at that point, we might have the two pieces of the puzzle come together, and then when the hen forms the eggshell, it's closing around two pieces of the puzzle. We have the DNA from both parents in order to form a baby chick. That's what makes it a fertilized egg. So the difference between fertilized and unfertilized is hit on pretty quickly, and then you continue on, and they basically don't tend to ask as many questions as they would if you got embarrassed about it or tried to make a deal about it when it wasn't. So once you have fertilized eggs, if you're letting nature take its course, a chicken is only capable of laying one egg a day, and sometimes it's not even going to lay one egg a day. So she's not going to sit on one egg alone. If we were letting nature take its course, she's going to lay what we call a clutch. So she's going to get 3 or 4 at least, and then she's going to decide to start incubating them all together. It's a 21-day period of, as Justin mentioned before, it's very rapid development. Now, it seems like to an outsider just looking at eggs, well, nothing's changed over that 21 days, but that couldn't be further from the truth. We're going from something that's a speck to something that is capable of hatching and being basically taking care of itself, because as a chicken that hatches on the ground, it basically does. It's for a day, it's going to be fairly sleepy and kind of lay around and sleep a lot, but it's going to be completely meeting its own basic needs by itself. If it's fortunate, it may have what we call a broody hen. In other words, she's going to kind of watch over them, and they're going to follow along close to her and watch what she does, but she's not going to get food for them. She's not going to, as we've seen other birds, do, like they're not going to go out, get food, chew it up, spit it in their mouths. That is not the story for chickens. I tell kids all the time that chickens grow up very quickly, very rapid growth and development. The 21 days is proof all by itself, but at that point, once they hatch, they are finding their own food, they're finding their own water. They do a lot of exploration and maybe investigating, and sometimes they investigate things that they shouldn't have, but they are able to take care of themselves very quickly. And the other thing that in a life cycle lesson that I would point out to them as we kind of just hit the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 is that their juvenile period is very short as well. So I tell kids, in order to make it really stick in their minds, I say something like, if today were Christmas, or if today were your birthday, let's say you're turning 8 years old today, and I give you a chick for your birthday, how old would your chicken be on your next birthday? Well, yes, of course, the chicken would be 1 year old, but what does that mean developmentally to a chicken? It means that your baby chick that you got on your birthday could actually be a grandparent on your next birthday, and that kind of really boggles their mind a little bit, but it also really sticks in their mind that in 4 to 5 months, it's possible that hen will be laying eggs, and that's actually what I'm experiencing at home right now. Last week I got my first eggs from chicks that came home from our last hatching in the classroom that actually went all the way to fruition, and I've got a second round that are getting about 3 weeks away from laying, because those are the ones that came back from the kinder class that wasn't able to see their babies hatch. So anyhow.
So obviously really great lessons about life and science and very practical, being able to see it happening in front of them. That's really awesome.
It is. I definitely think, like I said earlier, science gives you that, get kids excited about science, because it's not just something that's book learning. It's not just conceptual. It's something that they can actually see, experience, apply to their lives and hopefully maybe grow up someday and figure out how to do things like get rid of COVID.
Yes. All right. So you have some teacher trainings coming up.
I do. So I've got a couple under my belt already, but this next week I'll get back in gear with doing teacher workshops. I have one scheduled for the 21st that, just based on our safety protocols, is already full, and I've got one going on the 23rd that has a couple of seats left, and on the 28th as well. And I'm willing to schedule more if there is more interest in the county. So if those dates don't match up to you and you're interested, please feel free to reach out, like we mentioned earlier, to via email or phone, and let me know. What we're doing again is hands-on lessons, so that it's not just sitting and getting or sitting and listening. It's actively participating and seeing how to put those into action in your classroom.
And we are talking about, so it's summertime, right? So we're talking about school's about to come up, but really anytime you're interested, it's a year-round project that
Absolutely.
could be done. So don't feel like you have to contact Joe or contact the extension office like this summer or this month or this week. Really anytime we can figure out a way to help you out with
Absolutely.
whatever you're doing. So in the classroom, and then like we mentioned too, you can sort of adapt it to home depending on what things look like. Okay, so thank you so much for being here, Joe, and telling us all about hatching in the classroom, curriculum enrichment. Thanks, Justin, for 4-H information. So there's so many things that we do in Extension, and 4-H, I think, is one of our, it's like our beacon. It's like our shining star, because it's one of the, it's our future, like literally the future, because we're talking about youth. But we do talk about lots of different things on the Extension Hour. We need to have some 4-H kids on our program sometime. So we will be back. We're here on Fridays, 1 to 2 p.m. Here live on Lone Star Radio. Also, you can listen live on Facebook Live and then on the radio station's website. And then you can go back and listen to previous recordings. So, if you might be trying to figure out what was it that Joe was talking about. So www.irlonestar.com. And then we also have a YouTube channel for Montgomery County, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. Like I said, when we started, we like words. We put lots of words into everything. But this is Extension Hour. We'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us.
Today's show was recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and all rights and ownership are reserved to Lone Star Community Radio. For more information regarding this program and Lone Star Community Radio, visit us online at irlonestar.com. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, serving the community with local programming on TV, radio, and online. If you enjoyed today's program, please support us by sponsorship or starting your own show. Contact us today by phone or text at 936-666-1084 or email the station at lscrstudios@gmail.com.